So imagine it's 8:30 a.m. You've just dragged yourself out of bed, slammed a giant scalding cup of coffee, and you're sitting in a conference room. Or, maybe staring at a grid of faces on a screen.
Right. We've all been there.
Yeah, and next to you is that one colleague, you know the one I mean. They are chipper, bright-eyed, and they are already completely dominating the
Oh,
conversation.
yeah. They've probably already been to the gym, too.
Exactly, and it's barely past dawn, and you, on the other hand, you feel sluggish, you're foggy, and you feel like you're already losing the day before it really even begins.
It's an awful feeling.
It is, but, and this is wild, what if we told you that right in that exact moment, despite every signal your body is sending you, your brain's actual working memory capacity is completely outperforming that hyper-energetic colleague?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds crazy.
Right. You aren't failing.
Right.
You're just experiencing a massive biologically ingrained illusion.
It is a profound illusion. And honestly, it's one that society has just accepted as absolute truth for centuries.
Yeah, we really have. Welcome to this deep dive, by the way. Today, our mission is to completely dismantle the early bird gets the worm myth.
Because we have heavily moralized the morning. We equate early waking with discipline and late waking with, well, with laziness.
But the hard biological data completely shatters that assumption. And we aren't just giving you a pep talk today. We are pulling from a really fascinating, dense stack of sources.
Some incredible data.
Yeah, we've got a brand new 2024 biometric study on morning cognitive ability from Thompson Rivers University.
We're also looking at evolutionary genetic data going back tens of thousands of years.
Right. Plus a massive study of 80,000 Japanese workers, and we'll look at future workplace mental health projections for 2026.
So we are going to explore exactly why your sleep schedule isn't a character flaw and why society's standard 9 to 5 is biologically rigging the game against half the population.
And how your DNA might hold some incredibly ancient survival secrets. But okay, I have to jump in right here because I'll admit I'm highly skeptical of this premise.
I get that.
Hmm.
It goes against everything we're taught.
Exactly. We've been told our whole lives by, CEOs with their 4.0 a.m. routines and productivity gurus that early to bed, early to rise is the ultimate recipe for success.
Right. Benjamin Franklin's whole thing.
Yeah. So if my body feels like garbage at 8 a.m., how on earth is my brain outperforming the person who is ready to run a marathon? I mean, it just doesn't make logical sense.
It definitely sounds counterintuitive, especially because we rely so heavily on how we feel to judge how we are actually performing.
Right. Subjective feeling.
Exactly. But the objective data is striking. To understand this, we have to talk about chronotypes, which is it's your biological hardwired preference for sleep and wake patterns.
Okay.
On the extreme ends, you have the morning types, the larks, and the evening types, the owls.
Right. And the standard assumption is that if you put a complex cognitive test in front of a night owl at 8:30 in the morning, they are going to absolutely bomb it.
Yes. And that's exactly what researchers at Thompson Rivers University assumed when they designed their 2024 study.
Okay, so what did they do?
They took 52 students, separated them by strict chronotypes, and tested them exclusively in the morning window,
Like early morning.
between 8:20 a.m. and 11:00 a.m. And they used something called a digit span test.
What does that actually look like in practice? Are they just like looking at flashcards with numbers on them?
It's a bit more intense than that. A digit span test measures working memory capacity.
Okay.
And working memory isn't just recalling a fact you learned yesterday. It's how much raw information your brain can actively hold, manipulate, and process at one exact moment in time.
Like RAM in a computer.
Perfect analogy, yes. Like RAM. The test flashes sequences of numbers, and you have to repeat them back, sometimes in reverse order. It really taxes your immediate computational power.
Okay, so let me guess. The night owls bombed it because they were half asleep. But maybe the researchers found they were more creative later in the day.
That's what you'd think. But the results were entirely backwards.
Wait, backwards.
Yeah. The definite evening types, the extreme night owls, didn't just match the morning types during that 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. window. They vastly outperformed them.
You're kidding.
No. The data showed that evening types were able to successfully recall and manipulate sequences of numbers roughly 3 or 4 digits longer than the definite morning types.
Wait, 3 or 4 extra digits? That's huge.
It is a massive gap.
I mean, if you think about trying to hold a standard phone number in your head, that extra capacity is like someone tacking on a whole PIN code to the end of it and you still remembering it perfectly.
Precisely. It's a massive gap in working memory. But here is where the researchers uncovered the paradox.
Okay.
Alongside the objective memory test, they gave the participants a self-report questionnaire. They asked them, essentially, how alert and sharp do you feel right now?
Oh, let me guess. The morning larks felt like absolute geniuses.
Exactly. The definite morning types scored incredibly high on the subjective questionnaire. They perceived their cognitive function to be optimal. They were buzzing.
And the night owls.
Meanwhile, the definite evening types rated themselves terribly. They reported feeling sluggish, foggy, and they just assumed they were failing the test.
Wow. Let that sink in for a second. So the morning people have a phenomenal PR department in their own heads.
That's a great way to put it.
They feel like geniuses, but are objectively dropping data. And the night owls feel like absolute zombies, but are actually processing highly complex information.
Yes, the subjective versus objective gap is huge.
Let's try to put a visual on this. It's kind of like a restaurant.
Okay, I like this. Go on.
The morning person has a really charismatic, high-energy host working the front door, greeting everyone, looking great. But back in the kitchen, they're understaffed and dropping orders.
All right, right.
The night owl has a grumpy host who can barely keep their eyes open and hates that you walked in. But in the back, there's a Michelin star kitchen working flawlessly, executing a 10-course meal.
That is a perfect metaphor. The outward projection of energy. The charismatic host at the front door has absolutely nothing to do with the computational power happening in the kitchen.
Wow.
In biological terms, the night owl is dealing with severe sleep inertia. Their body feels heavy, their eyes are tired, but their basal cognitive function, the actual RAM of the brain, is highly optimized.
Okay, that makes sense of the data, but it immediately raises a bigger question for me.
Which is?
If the Michelin star kitchen is running so well, why is the host so grumpy? Like, if night owls have this superior morning working memory, why does the body punish them with sleep inertia?
That's the million-dollar question.
Why hasn't evolution just ironed this out so we all wake up with the sun and feel great doing it?
To answer that, we have to take a step away from behavioral science and go straight into deep time in human genetics.
Deep time, okay.
What's fascinating here is that being a night owl isn't a lifestyle choice, and it's certainly not a bad habit you picked up in college. Chronotype is highly genetic.
Really? How genetic?
Research indicates that roughly 50% of the variance in your sleep timing is hard-coded into your DNA. Scientists have mapped out at least 22 specific genetic variants that dictate whether you want to hit the snooze button.
22 distinct genes just fighting my alarm clock.
And it gets even deeper. One of the primary genetic variants linked to severe eveningness, it's known as the ASB1 gene, isn't even strictly a modern human trait.
Wait, what do you mean?
It is a Neanderthal trait.
Wait, are you serious? Neanderthals?
Yes, it's a genetic echo resulting from ancient interbreeding between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. Neanderthals actually had a much more crepuscular or twilight active lifestyle.
Okay, I have a hard time buying that a few drops of ancient Neanderthal DNA make me inherently smarter or better equipped at 11 p.m.
It sounds like sci-fi, I know.
Isn't it more likely that night owls just have fewer distractions at night? You know, everyone else is asleep, so of course they can focus better.
The lack of distraction plays a role in productivity, sure. But the underlying cognitive differences are structural.
Structural how?
Well, a broad meta-analysis looking at intelligence across thousands of individuals revealed a small but incredibly consistent positive association between the evening chronotype and higher general intelligence.
Seriously, night owls are statistically smarter.
Statistically, yes.
Yeah.
Night owls show higher capacities for creative problem solving, inductive reasoning, and original thinking.
But again, I keep coming back to the friction here.
Profession, right.
If night owls are statistically a bit sharper and they have this ancient genetic toolkit, why are they suffering so much in modern society? If they are biologically primed for this, why do they feel physically awful every morning?
Well,
Are night owls basically just specialized biological security guards who are currently out of a job?
you absolutely nailed it. That is exactly what evolutionary biologists call the sentinel theory.
Sentinel theory, okay.
Yeah. In ancestral hunter-gatherer societies, human vulnerability was at its absolute peak during the night.
Because of predators.
Exactly. If you have a tribe of 50 people and every single one of them sleeps deeply from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., that entire tribe is completely vulnerable to predators, a changing environment, or rival groups.
Right. Somebody had to keep the fire from going out. Somebody had to listen for rustling in the bushes at 3 a.m.
Precisely. A tribe survived because it had staggered sleep schedules. We needed people awake, alert, and cognitively sharp at all hours to guard the community.
That makes total sense.
The night owl's delayed circadian rhythm was a crucial, highly valued survival mechanism. And when we connect this to the bigger picture, it changes how we view human vulnerability today.
How so?
Think about your own family. That teenager who physically cannot wake up at 6 a.m. for a high school math class, or the spouse who is wide awake, pacing the house and hyper-focused at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It isn't laziness. They carry the DNA of the tribal sentinels.
That reframes things completely. It's an ancient evolutionary gift. But we have a massive problem.
We do.
So we have these genetically primed nocturnal sentinels, but they're living in a world built by and for morning larks. There are no predators to watch out for anymore, just a 9 a.m. quarterly review on Zoom.
Exactly. The environment changed, but the DNA didn't.
So what happens to the human body when it's forced to live in the wrong time zone for decades? Which I guess leads us directly into the medical data.
It leads to a slow, grinding physiological breakdown. Chronobiologists have a specific term for this. It's called social jet lag.
Social jet lag.
Right.
So it's like the feeling of flying from New York to Tokyo, but you haven't actually left your bedroom.
Exactly. It's the chronic, daily misalignment between a person's internal genetic body clock and the rigid social or work schedule forced upon them.
Ouch.
And to understand the sheer scale of the damage this causes, we have to look at a recent study out of the University of Tsukuba.
In Japan.
Right. They tracked the smartphone sleep data and workplace performance of 80,000 Japanese workers.
80,000 people. Wow. That's a massive undeniable sample size. What did the data actually show?
They were looking at a metric called presenteeism. Now, we all know about absenteeism calling in sick.
Yeah.
Presenteeism is when you are physically sitting at your desk clicking your mouse, but mentally you are completely absent. Your productivity is zero.
Oh, I've definitely been there.
We all have.
Yeah.
But they found that the highest levels of presenteeism weren't caused by a simple lack of sleep on a random Tuesday.
What was it then?
It was driven primarily by social jet lag and the chronic insomnia that accompanies it. It was evening types being aggressively forced into morning schedules week after week.
Man. And the cost isn't just lost emails or a slow workday. Looking at the sources here, the physical toll is honestly alarming.
It's severe.
The dark side of being an evening chronotype in a morning world is linked to significantly higher BMI, obesity, diabetes, and the mental health correlations are incredibly heavy.
Very heavy.
We're talking higher rates of ADHD, severe mood disorders, clinical depression, and bipolar disorder.
Yes, but we have to separate the cause and the effect here,
Right.
because this raises a vital question. Is being a night owl inherently unhealthy? Does having the sentinel gene make you sick?
Right. Is the DNA itself bad?
And the evidence strongly suggests no, it's not the DNA, it's the friction.
Break that friction down for me. What is mechanically happening in the body at, say, 6:30 a.m. when that alarm goes off for a night owl?
Think of it as a violent hormonal tug-of-war. At 6:30 a.m., the night owl's genetic clock is screaming at the brain to release melatonin, the hormone that repairs the body and maintains deep sleep.
Because it thinks it's still the middle of the night.
Exactly. Their core body temperature is at its lowest. But the alarm clock goes off, and because they have to be at work, the person forces a massive, unnatural spike of cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Yes, to jolt the system awake. Doing that once is fine. Doing that every single day for 20 years puts the body into a state of chronic inflammation.
Let that sink in for a second. Chronic inflammation just from an alarm clock.
That chronic stress disrupts your metabolism, it throws off your insulin response, which leads to the diabetes and weight gain, and severely disrupts your neurochemistry, opening the door for depression.
So we are literally making millions of people chronically ill. We are increasing their risk for diabetes and severe depression just to adhere to an arbitrary 9 to 5 clock.
Tragic, really.
And let's be historically honest, that 9 to 5 schedule wasn't handed down on stone tablets. It was invented during the Industrial Revolution to maximize factory shifts. It has absolutely nothing to do with modern knowledge work.
Exactly right. We are actively punishing our sentinels for being sentinels.
Okay, this sounds incredibly bleak.
It does sound bad.
I mean, if society is structurally rigid, what are we supposed to do? We can't all just quit our jobs and trade crypto at 3 in the morning. Banks open when they open. Schools start when they start. Are night owls just doomed to suffer chronic inflammation and social jet lag forever?
They aren't, because the paradise is finally starting to crack.
Okay, good. How?
If we look at the projections from Alone Health regarding the future of workplace mental health in 2026, The solution is emerging through what they call an integrated mental health ecosystem.
Okay, integrated mental health ecosystem sounds like a great corporate buzzword. But what does that actually look like in practice for an employee?
The biggest mechanical shift is the move away from rigid synchronous work.
Meaning everyone working at the exact same time.
Right. Instead of forcing everyone onto an 8:30 a.m. video call to give a status update, teams are shifting to asynchronous communication.
Oh, nice.
You record a brief video update or leave notes in a shared document, and your colleagues review it when their brains are actually optimized to process it.
That makes so much more sense.
It means evaluating employees strictly on their output and the quality of their work, completely uncoupling performance from whether their chat icon is glowing green at 8,000 a.m. sharp.
Which is how it should be.
They're also bringing in advanced AI tools that analyze individual employee performance data to customize specific schedules. This is especially vital for neurodivergent individuals whose needs almost always intersect with delayed chronotypes.
That sounds fantastic for the progressive companies of 2026 and beyond, but I want to talk about the listener right now. What about the person who still has a rigid 9 a.m. stand-up meeting tomorrow morning? If you are a night owl and you must conform to a morning schedule to keep your job or get your kids on the school bus, how do you biologically hack your chronotype without destroying your metabolic health?
You have to deliberately manipulate your Zeitgebers.
Your Zeitgebers.
Yes. It's a German term that translates to time givers.
Okay.
They are the environmental cues that set your biological clock. And the absolute worst thing a night owl can do is try to force an abrupt change.
Like just going to bed early.
Right. If your body naturally wants to sleep at 2 a.m., declaring that tonight you're going to bed at 10 p.m. will just result in 4 hours of staring at the ceiling, building up anxiety.
I've done that. It doesn't work.
It never works. You have to use microshifts. You move your sleep and wake times back by exactly 15 minutes every 3 to 4 days.
So just slowly boiling the frog, biologically speaking, easing the body into a new time zone.
Exactly. And the most powerful weapon in this process is light exposure. We have to talk about the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN.
Let me guess, that's another piece of ancient hardware in the brain.
It is. Think of the suprachiasmatic nucleus as the master conductor of an orchestra inside your brain.
Okay.
When bright morning sunlight hits your retina, it sends an electrical signal directly to that conductor. The conductor then lowers the baton on melatonin production and raises the baton on cortisol and serotonin to wake you up.
I see.
So if you want to hack your clock, you need massive amounts of bright light immediately upon waking. It forcefully advances your clock, signaling your biology that morning has arrived.
And at night.
Conversely, you must strictly minimize light in the evening to allow the melatonin to rise earlier than it naturally wants to.
So what does this all mean? If we zoom out and look at this entire mountain of evidence, from the working memory tests in Canadian universities to ancient Neanderthal DNA to the productivity data of 80,000 Japanese workers.
Means we desperately need to stop moralizing sleep. Waking up at 5 a.m. doesn't make you a morally superior, harder working person. It just means your specific genetics perfectly align with the economic system we currently live in.
You won the biological lottery for the Industrial Revolution's hangover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Morning people have fantastic PR, and as the Thomson Rivers study showed, incredibly high subjective confidence.
The charismatic host at the door.
Yes. But evening people possess a deeply ingrained survival mechanism, a statistical edge in general intelligence, and hidden morning memory superpowers that are currently being crushed under the weight of chronic social jet lag.
We've challenged the core myth today. If you are a night owl, you are not lazy, you are not broken, you are a biological sentinel.
And truly understanding that mechanism is the very first step to reclaiming both your health and your productivity.
So we want to leave you with a secret advantage. Tomorrow morning, when you are sitting in that 8:30 a.m. meeting, evaluate your own state.
Take a look around the room.
Yeah, look at the people around you. Are you a morning lark running your presentation on pure subjective confidence, acting like the charismatic host at the front door while your working memory drops the ball?
Or are you a night owl?
Right. Are you sitting quietly, feeling a bit groggy, but whose internal kitchen is actually firing on all cylinders, processing complex data flawlessly?
Don't fight your biology. Track your own peak performance times this week.
Use this exact knowledge to schedule your most cognitively demanding tasks, the deep work, the complex problem solving, when your brain is actually ready for them, not when the clock on the wall tells you to.
It's all about playing to your strengths.
You now have the biological blueprint to outsmart your own schedule, and I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on.
Oh, here we go.
As humanity starts looking beyond Earth, right? As we push towards long-term space travel, living on massive ships or colonizing planets with completely different non-24-hour day and night cycles, think about who is going to thrive.
That's a great point.
These night owl genes, this delayed rhythm that causes so much friction in a modern office, might transition from being a workplace hindrance to the exact evolutionary advantage our species needs to survive among the stars.
The sentinels of the future.
Exactly. So keep your kitchen running, process the data, and own your biological time zone.